Tonight, Ron Taverner returns to Toronto Police while his appointment as OPP Commissioner hangs in limbo.
Definitely an odor around this one. I mean, it smacks and stinks, frankly, of cronyism.
Critics say Taverner's appointment would make it difficult for the OPP to investigate political wrongdoing. Plus,
it's an all-encompassing community and everything's accessible from here as well.
The last and tallest piece of the City Place puzzle falls into place. And giving a leg up to a badly abused animal. Toronto dog lovers come together to raise money for True. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. It's unclear tonight who will be the next leader of the Ontario Provincial Police. Superintendent Ron Taverner is now back at his old job with Toronto Police after he rescinded his resignation papers. His appointment as the new OPP Commissioner is up in the air while Ontario's Integrity Commissioner decides if it will launch a full investigation. That's following complaints of political interference and a growing backlash on the force. Chris Glover has the story.
I mean, this is crazy town. That's how I feel. That it makes no sense, and I think everyone's sort of stunned by it.
Tony, who says he's an OPP constable in Ottawa, called CBC's noon radio show.
My phone's already dinging, so I know it's fellow officers that are writing me now.
The officer stuck his neck out because despite Ron Taverner's 5 decades of experience as a Toronto police officer, Tony says Taverner's too close to Premier Doug Ford.
I mean, our job sometimes is to police the government. And I don't understand how, if your top dog is going to barbecues with the Premier, how is he able to separate that and still police him? It doesn't make sense to me. I don't think it makes sense to anybody.
Saturday, Taverner resigned from Toronto Police to allow for his swearing in as OPP Commissioner. Then, behind closed doors, Sunday, he rescinded that resignation while the Integrity Commissioner reviews the situation.
I commend him for stepping to one side, because as I said last week, I think the notion of some kind of transparent examination of all this when a controversy has arisen is the best way in which to determine exactly what did happen.
I would seek unanimous consent in order to put forward a motion to create a select committee.
Today, the NDP called for a special committee to investigate political involvement in the appointment of a friend. For example, the job description was rewritten during the candidacy process, and that allowed Taverner to qualify.
This kind of political interference in policing is not something that we will stand for.
The PCs say they lowered the qualifications to attract more candidates.
Let's let the Integrity Commissioner do his work. I have a lot of faith in the Integrity Commissioner.
There's definitely an odor around this one. I mean, it smacks and stinks, frankly, of cronyism.
A former director of the police watchdog, the Special Investigations Unit, says the OPP Commissioner can't be in the Premier's pocket. He points to the computer-wiping criminal investigation against the top staffer to a former Liberal Premier. That ended in jail time.
Frankly, Ron Taverner can't win. If there's an investigation against a political person, let's assume for the moment they're Liberal, and a charge is laid, everyone will say it smacks of vindictiveness. If there's a political investigation against somebody with Tory connections and there's no charges laid, everyone will say it's a cover-up. It doesn't matter now what the integrity of that investigation is. The optics don't add up.
Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
We didn't hear from Premier Ford on the Ron Taverner story today. He was actually missing from Queen's Park altogether, even though his government called MPPs back to the legislature today to deal with a looming labour disruption at Ontario Power Generation. Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has more.
This close to Christmas, Queen's Park is not supposed to be in session. But your MPPs are here because the Ford government wants to push through emergency legislation.
The Minister of Labour.
This bill would stop a strike by the Power Workers Union. Its 6,000 members run OPG's nuclear plants and hydroelectric dams. They've issued strike notice and have already started the process to shut down the Darlington and Pickering nuclear stations. That could mean blackouts as early as Christmas, says the Energy Minister.
The people of Ontario want their electricity supply maintained, not interrupted. If the NDP cared about that, they would vote by unanimous consent today. This would be over, and everyone would be able to go back to their regular business.
With the NDP opposing the bill to stop the strike, it'll likely take until Wednesday to pass.
But I certainly don't support it when it appears that the government didn't even try to resolve this problem. In fact, they threatened the back-to-work legislation before the strike had even begun.
For this emergency sitting, nearly every progressive Conservative is in the chamber. But not Premier Doug Ford. That's his seat, occupied by the MPP for Oakville, wearing the blue tie. So why isn't Ford at Queen's Park for such urgent legislation?
There are commitments this afternoon, but you'll see him over the course of the coming days because he knows and he's given us direction that the priority is to ensure that the electricity supply is uninterrupted for the people of Ontario.
Well, I think the Premier should have been here to do his job like everyone else today, absolutely.
I hope that he's here tomorrow to be able to talk about that.
Tomorrow, right in the middle of question period, Premier Doug Ford is scheduled to cut the ribbon on a new Amazon office here in Toronto. It means the Premier will be able to avoid getting grilled by the opposition about this and any number of other topics, including his appointment of family friend Ron Taverner as head of the OPP. Mike Crowley, CBC News, Toronto.
And we're learning tonight that an overwhelming number of Ontarians who weighed in on the Ontario sex ed curriculum were against the changes. At least on the first day of public consultations, the Canadian Press reviewed roughly 1,600 submissions from day one through a Freedom of Information request. Of those 1,600, just about 24 spoke in favor of the decision to repeal the modern curriculum. Consultations launched in August after the PCs replaced the sex ed lesson plans with ones based on the 1998 curriculum. Asked about these results, Education Minister Lisa Thompson told CP her ministry will look at all the data next month and write and test a new curriculum in the spring. And a developing story we're following tonight, a group of students from a Brampton high school are stuck in Cambodia after their passports were stolen. Bruce Campbell with the Dufferin-Peel Catholic District School Board tells us the trip consisted of 10 students and 4 staff from St. Edmund Campion Secondary. They were on a social justice trip to the region. They were supposed to fly home yesterday, but their passports were stolen Saturday. Campbell says the school board is working with the trip organizers and the Canadian consulates in Cambodia and Bangkok to expedite emergency travel documents. The hope is to get everyone home by Friday. In the meantime, he says the group is safe and well accommodated. Colette Kennedy's here with her first look at the forecast. We got a cool start to the week.
We do have a cool start to the week, you know, and we're going to be feeling it even with this wind chill into tomorrow morning. But thing is, it's going to be really short-lived, and we've got some sunshine coming with it too, so I don't think we'll hear too many complaints. We'll see about that. I'll let you know how many complaints I get. A little bit of scattered flurry activity we've been seeing around the area, but mostly the overnight you're going to find. Watch these clouds right here through the overnight, a clearing trend into tomorrow. High pressure building, that sinking air, very stable, and it sets us up for the sunshine that we will be seeing through the day on Tuesday. Now, I did say it's a cold start. We've had the northwesterly winds. They've been a little bit breezy, a little gusty, and we'll still have the northwesterly flow, but then it'll turn more westerly, and it's going to kind of ease off a bit tomorrow. So even though the temperatures are going to be a little cool, you're not going to find as much of a wind chill factor that we have to deal with. So this is how it looks overnight tonight, -6. But with the winds around the GTA, there'll be kind of a range in terms of the wind chill, making it feel like -10 to -13. And then as we go into tomorrow afternoon, sunshine, the high temperature, though, just trying to get up to the freezing mark. But look at those winds kind of backing off a little bit. And with all that sun, and then after that, everything changes. All bets are off. We've got milder air coming back to us, Mike, and I'll tell you about that a little later in the show.
All right. Thanks a lot, Colette.
You're welcome.
A rescue dog named True is in need of some help after losing both front paws due to an act of animal cruelty. Tonight, Toronto's Cause for Paws group held a fundraiser in hopes of getting him 2 prosthetic legs. Kel DeYoon tells us about the dog's long journey to here.
For the past 10 days, 13-month-old True has been experiencing something he's never had before: love.
And he's a big cuddler, loves to play, he's just a sweetheart.
You would think somebody that went through so much could be demanding, but not at all. He sees his dog in the house.
Erin Black and her boyfriend Romaine are now fostering True.
I saw his picture and it broke my heart.
And his story did too.
True liked to dig in the backyard. His owner had an addiction problem and cut off True's 2 front legs.
Helen Antonio co-founded Cause for Paws 6 years ago to help rescue dogs that have been neglected or abused. She first heard True's story through this woman, Natalia Dirtsevich, who posted about it.
He lived in a small village near my hometown back in Ukraine.
After losing his paws, True was first rescued by neighbors. He eventually ended up in an outdoor shelter with no one able or willing to take him. All that changed when Natalia and her husband Dennis went to meet him and bring him back to Toronto.
He was scared. He was like, trembling. First half an hour he was scared, and then he started to lick my face and my hands.
But it is a costly rescue effort. Prosthetic paws could cost anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000.
Unfortunately, True's story is not unique. The organization has rescued hundreds of abused dogs over the past 6 years. And tonight's fundraiser is not only to help True, but other dogs as well.
We have a dog that is blind, that is sitting in a shelter in Moscow. And we have 2 dogs that are in wheelchairs, one in Greece and one in Ukraine that we're hoping to bring over to Cause for Paws.
As for True, he's in safe arms now.
We feel really blessed to have him.
And pretty soon he will hopefully have 2 new paws to cuddle with. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Seeing what we have built around us you kind of can't believe it. It's even better than what we'd envisioned when we started.
Over the last 2 decades, it has been continuous construction around what's known as City Place, but there is actually an end to sight to all those new condo towers. The final phase has begun. We'll take a look back and a look forward coming up. Welcome back. Some new developments at Toronto Community Housing to tell you about. The agency will ask the Police Services Board tomorrow to almost double its capacity to hire special constables. That request comes amid rising violence on TCH properties.
Could be hectic. There are people that are coming in our building for drugs, and they destroy the walls in our floors and graffiti. Sometimes they defecate in the stairwells.
Now, Lona Bata, tenant rep in Regent Park, told us she absolutely supports putting more special constables on the ground in the hope that they will quell some of the violence she sees. This year, almost 40% of the city's shootings took place on TCH properties, yet only 4% of the city's population live in those buildings. Those numbers are up about 10% from last year. TCH also wants the ability to hire up to 140 new security staff, although it won't be able to hire nearly that many anytime soon. The director of the TCH Community Safety Unit says 26 new constables are currently being trained, and he hopes to attract 60 more recruits next year. And the CEO of Toronto Community Housing, Kathy Milsom, was placed on administrative leave tonight. The move stems from a contract TCH signed with Orchango. It's a management consultant agency. An independent review of the contract found the process to be, quote, flawed and did not follow regulations. The contract has now been terminated. Milsom and the TCH employee who oversaw the process are now on leave. Well, nearly 20 years after the building first began, the final phase of construction is now underway at City Place. Workers have broken ground on Canada House, the tallest of about a dozen condos that have gone up on the formerly abandoned rail lands near the CN Tower. Thousands of people now call it home. Philip Lucianic takes us through the lessons learned from the growing pains in that community.
For Jen Yeaman, this isn't just where she works. City Place is where she lives. And when she looks around at what her company has done here, she can't help but get emotional.
Seeing what we have built around us you kind of can't believe it. It's even better than what we'd envisioned when we started.
There was little here before Concord ADEX came. In fact, it had been part of Toronto's inner harbor. In the 1850s, the land was filled in, using anything at hand. At one construction site, workers found the remnants of a wooden schooner. The lands were used for rail yards until the 1950s through the 1970s, when trains were replaced with cars and trucks, and fewer passengers and freight were transported by rail. By the 1990s, much of the land was abandoned. Concord ADEX purchased it for an undisclosed amount and began building in 2000. The construction hasn't stopped since. Canada House, the last project, will be the tallest City Place has ever seen. Concord ADEX calls it the crowning jewel of the entire development.
It's an all-encompassing community, and everything's accessible from here as well, which is really great. So you can have that very urban downtown lifestyle, and it's very convenient for me. Personally, I love it. I can walk to work. I love that.
The rapid transformation hasn't been without challenges. A community with the population of the town of Cobourg has moved here in a short period of time. This urban planner says much can be learned from the City Place experience.
I think the key challenges have been around infrastructure and around the staging of the project. Really that the buildings went in first, that the private developments really led the public planning. And I think that's posed challenges in terms of the physical infrastructure for electricity, for sewage, but also the social infrastructure that makes a real community, like a grocery store, the parks, community centers, libraries.
Concord ADEX says what it's learned here is being applied at its new project in North York.
Having the infrastructure in early, we've got the school coming, the community centers coming, having those items in there early for the community, those amenities, like I said, along with having retail in there early, the anchor tenants in there, that really helps jumpstart the community.
And as developers realize that these aren't just buildings rising out of brownfields and changing the skyline, but people's homes and communities, they know that making these desirable places to live is just good business. Philip Lucianic, CBC News, Toronto.
Moves it over to the oven, pops it out of the box, cooks it in about 110 seconds, drops it back in the box, and you're going to see that pizza slide right out here. The whole process is less than 3 minutes.
It is the hottest new Toronto foodie experience, a pizza vending machine. Lots of buzz, but how's the bite? We took it to the experts for a taste test. That's coming up.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
We are one step closer to the robot revolution tonight. They may already be vacuuming your floors. In a few years, they might be driving your taxi. But as of tonight, the robots are now making your pizza. It's thanks to a brand new fully automated vending machine in Yorkville. Ali Chasson tries a slice.
Toronto's newest pizza place is a hole-in-the-wall type of place, literally. It's garnered a lot of buzz.
But I was afraid to touch it because I didn't know.
It doesn't seem real to you.
I was like, is it going to be pizza?
You have like the progress bar. It's like you're downloading a pizza right now.
People in the back kind of just like putting it on the pizza.
Yeah, Nana is back there.
No, right.
It's pizza, or as the president of Pizza Forno calls it,
total pizza eruption.
Step one.
So we've got 4 varieties right now. Barbecue chicken and bacon, which is a crowd pleaser up here. Mozzarella cheese. Honey and goat cheese, which is actually a French recipe that we've adapted for the North American market.
What goes on behind the scenes here?
Well, I can't reveal everything because it's kind of secret, but I'll let you know that the whole process is completely robotic. So the pizzas are made, as I mentioned, by hand in a commissary, but once they load into this machine, they're loaded into a refrigerated section. The robotic arm, which we give you a little tease here, pulls the pizza out of the robotic section of the fridge, moves it over to the oven, pops it out of the box, cooks it in about 110 seconds, drops it back in the box, and you're going to see that pizza slide right out here. The whole process is less than 3 minutes.
Oh, it actually looks pretty good. See? It does look pretty good. All right, we'll try it out. It smells fresh.
We will prove to you that you can get an amazing handmade artisanal pizza out of a machine.
So we're going to do a little taste test here with some help from the guys behind Toronto Pizza Empire, Pizzeria Libretto.
To give it a fair shot, Chef Rocco Agostino warmed it up.
The right time, the right place. This might be the perfect pizza for someone.
Downtown, on a busy street corner, mall food courts, the pizza vending machine is going places.
We're launching 9 more in the GTA between now and the end of January.
Just a fridge and an oven and a robotic arm.
Yeah.
Making your pizza.
Yeah. Well, hey, I guess innovation
is everywhere.
Is everywhere.
So there you have it. There's room for everybody at Toronto's Pizza Party, which is actually a good way to describe the restaurant scene right now. There are so many pizza places opening. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go get me a slice right now. Ali Chasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Colette is back now with her extended forecast. Now, this is the week we officially get into winter, but it's not going to feel like winter.
It is not going to feel like winter. Wait till you see what the actual forecast is as we get towards the end of the week. And, you know, a little recap here in terms of, I like to go back as a refresher because every day it gets a little cooler in terms of what our average high temperature would be. Yeah, just barely above the freezing mark. We would round that up to say 1 degree and -7 for our average overnight low. And we're going to be pretty close to that for tonight, as I was talking about earlier in the show, and we'll show you again here. But just in terms of the clouds, those eroding as we're getting into this ridge of high pressure building in. Later in the week, another system will come through. But even as early as what we're finding by Wednesday, a southwesterly flow will push our temperatures back up. So it's really just into Tuesday. We'll have the sunshine. The winds won't be as strong tomorrow afternoon as what they were this afternoon, but still a west to kind of northwesterly flow, so a bit of a wind chill factor. And then into Wednesday, a little more clouds build in here, and certainly we're going to feel the changeover. Thursday is going to be that real transition day, getting into rain on the way for Friday. For southwestern Ontario, a clearing trend overnight tonight with lows -5 down to -6 for London, and highs tomorrow. Again, a lot of sunshine in this region, but highs of 1 to 2 degrees. So that's kind of closer to seasonal for that area. And then we're looking at -6 to, how about -8 for you guys in Markham, even Oshawa, probably -7 overnight tonight. But again, keep in mind with the winds tomorrow morning, feeling more like -10 to into the -teens with that wind chill. Afternoon tomorrow, well, we'll see a high around freezing for Hamilton and St. Catharines, otherwise -1. But we get all that sunshine. You're going to need the sunglasses, a little bit of glare off the windshield. Yeah, it's not going to be too bad. And then look what we get for Wednesday. We're keeping the sun, but the southwesterly winds will push the temperature up as a warm front is coming through. 5 degrees then for Wednesday. Midweek just looks beautiful. It'll be easy to get over that hump day. And in fact, you won't want to leave it. Into Thursday, 4 degrees, a mix of sun and cloud. But Thursday night, the showers will begin, and then getting into rainfall. Yeah, rainfall for Friday. 5 degrees the high. The overnight low doesn't drop below freezing, and that's why maybe a bit of mix a little further north of the city, but otherwise it is rain. That's what we're looking at. Mild week ahead. That's after tomorrow, Mike.
All right. Thanks a lot, Colette.
You're welcome.
Windsor Police announced the retirement of one of their police dogs today. Cato has been with the service since 2010. Now, in dog years, that makes him anywhere from a 56 to 61-year veteran of the force. Since then, Cato has won numerous awards, worked on 3,000 calls, and took part in over 100 arrests, including a high-profile one last year.
You know, probably the most dangerous one was where we tracked down an armed suspect last year who had a loaded shotgun at the Titan Tool. That was probably the most dangerous, where there were several people's lives in danger, and if it wasn't for that animal, things probably would have turned out worse.
Now, Cato will continue to live with Constable Montigny in his retirement. Meanwhile, Montigny has been partnered with a new police dog, Nick. And I hope I'm jumping with excitement at my retirement as well. Let's retire our newscast tonight. If you're still looking for a last-minute Christmas gift for that music lover on your list, you may want to listen to Q tomorrow. Geddy Lee will stop by to talk about his new coffee table book. It's all about the evolution of the bass guitar since the 1950s and how those evolutions have changed the sounds of popular music. He certainly knows his bass. That's at 10 a.m. tomorrow on CBC Radio 1. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.